So you bought into all of the dealer hype on Rolex. You purchased one of these at £51,000, one of these at £74,000, or one of these at £101,000 at the peak. The question is then now for you, after several months of prices on those most hyped models plummeting, what next? I'm Vinny and thanks for joining me back here on the channel. Now, I was asked a question last week by a client. Vinny, I bought a green dial John Mayer Daytona close to the peak, and I also bought a solid gold Rolex GMT Master 2 Rootbeer. Obviously, I paid a lot for those, and now I find myself in a position where those prices have plummeted. What do I do now? Do I get out of that position that's currently losing me money, or do I sit on them and hope that those prices will come back up and that I won't lose anything in the future? On those three models that I mentioned then, which we're going to focus on, the Day-Date Olive, the Daytona green dial yellow gold, and the GMT Master 2 Rootbeer solid gold, them really are the three top models that since the turn of the year, from January to March, had an amazing amount of super hype from dealers. Hype really that was driven by rumour that, oh, is the John Mayer Daytona going to be discontinued? It's long overdue being discontinued. Let's wait for Watches and Wonders to happen in March and see if that happens. And obviously, for many years, dealers have been saying the same thing about that particular model. And as always, Rolex surprises us and does the complete opposite. But too many of you really bought into that hype because everybody else was buying them. We were experiencing prices on these models going up by 10% month on month. Well, obviously since then the tide has turned. It's turned quite significantly on these three pieces. So where are we actually at right now then? For the rose gold Rootbeer, the 126715 CHNR, at the peak in February, like I said, that was selling on the secondary market for 51,000. Now we find ourselves at a secondary market value of 38,500, a decrease of 32%. The John Mayer green Daytona, at peak, this was 101,000. Now you'll be able to pick those up for 79,000. That represents 28% decrease. The rose gold Olive Day-Date, the 228235 at peak, 74,000 this climbed all the way up to, and now it is a watch which stands at 54,000, so that's the biggest loser there at 37%. So that's where we are. What I want to discount really is this possibility that they might be discontinued. Let's assume that for the next few years, all three of those models are going to be in continuous production. If you bought those three watches at the peak, you really did pay too much. In my opinion, I can't see those prices returning to that level anytime soon. The question for me then now is, should you remove yourself from the current position that you're in for damage limitations? If you sell now, you're going to take a loss on those three watches. Are they going to keep going down in value? If you act now, are you going to limit the losses that you'll make? I've seen in the last couple of months, just from my own experience, particularly the last 30 days, that the prices on the secondary market haven't really moved that much at all. Now the issue is the longer that you keep them, the older that they get. If you've got a watch which passes that sort of 5-year age, what you've got is a Rolex in particular that has expired its warranty. Now, there are many dealers that I know that will only trade with and only deal with watches that are a couple of years old because they're easier to shift. So in terms of liquidity and actually shifting your watch, them three watches, the longer that you keep them, the older that they're going to get. And if they pass that 5-year warranty period, there is going to be a significant amount less in terms of dealers that will want to make you an offer. The other thing that you've got to remember as well is that the cash that you've got sitting in those watches at the moment isn't making you any money. And if you invested in them, then you invested to make money. At the moment, they're not doing that. So why not remove yourself from the situation, cut your losses? It is still a significant amount of capital that you'll get back from those, and shift it into something else, shift it into another asset which will appreciate and will actually start recouping back some of those losses. What I would also say is, do you have to sell? You know, if you're a wealthy individual, please don't feel that because the market has fallen that you actually have to sell these watches. I mean, the client who I was talking to the other day, who posed this question to me, quite openly admitted, look, Vinny, I don't need to sell these watches, but obviously I'm a prudent investor and I want to know what the best advice is. If you do have to sell them, then what are your options? Well, the first one, you could take some decent photos of it and list it on eBay. Now for me, this is probably the worst option for getting the most of your money back. At Beat the Waitlist, my business, we started off with the majority of our deals on eBay, but they were for watches that were under the £5,000 mark. They sell quite well on eBay, they're much more liquid, and you get much more participants engaging in a bidding war to actually achieve a price for that watch that it's worth. In my experience, if you're trying to sell a watch on there that's over £20,000, it is very difficult to do. You will not get the true market value for that. The other option that you could take, obviously, is approach dealers like myself for a cash quote. The prices that I've just quoted there are the market value prices. Now you can expect to slash at least 10 to 15% off those prices, because obviously a dealer's got to make his margin. But the other problem is right now, though, is that dealers aren't just making their margin, but they're also building into the offers that they're giving you extra wiggle room, just in case the market does fall even further. So they're building in an insurance policy into those offers, and they are more concerned about what they invest and shift their capital into and minimizing risk. And one of the ways of doing that, guys, is offering you less. So don't get ripped off. You can expect to be offered 10 to 15% less. If you're being offered 25, 30% less, then they're taking the mick. For me, the best option then, if you've got to sell, is consignment. Now, why is it the best option? Because you will get the vast majority of the proceeds when the dealer comes to sell it to their client back to you. The commission is much smaller. Typically it's 10% or less. However, as I've highlighted in a previous video, consignment is very murky waters. You've got to be really careful. Whom you trust with your watch as a guardian. You've got to look for red flags as well. Red flags that show, are these the type of guys that I can trust with my watch? Don't just trust what you see on social media and Instagram. So that's it, guys. I hope those options help you. Like I say, it's not an easy time right now. If you bought those at the peak, that artificial spike that happened between January and March is over. Dealers now, speculators now, investors now have got a precedent of having their fingers burnt, of losing money, and I don't think there will be a hyped environment in future to the extent that there was before that allows for that kind of artificial increase in prices to happen again. So in short, no, I don't think those three watches are going to go back up to the prices that you paid for them if you bought them at the peaks. That's all for this week, guys. I've been watching Investor Vinny. Please make sure you check out beatthewaitlist-watches.com, and I'll see you next week. Take care.